Welcome to the 152nd annual meeting of Congregation Shaare Emeth, and the first ever virtual annual meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are so glad that you've joined us, and we're honored to be here together as a community gathered in celebration of our congregation. And it's my great honor to begin our meeting by asking Rabbi Jeffrey Stiffman, our Rabbi Emeritus, to offer words of invocation for our gathering.
Thank you, Rabbi Bennet. As I was mentioning to Rabbi Bennet when he invited me to offer this invocation, my first annual meeting here was 55 years ago in our old building, and the congregation was experiencing some difficulties. What a blessing it is today to share in this annual meeting with a congregation so ably led by our clergy, lay leaders, and by all who uphold this congregation. And so at this time of difficulty, we pray, Makor Chayim, O source of life and strength, as the world about us feels insecure, as we feel the effects of a pandemic and a pandemic of racism and hate, may we turn to this congregation, remembering that we are members of an eternal people, seeking justice, wisdom, hope, and love. May our being together today and in the year to come help us to increase these. I invite you to say with me, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and brought us to this sacred moment. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Stiffman. As always, your words bring us comfort and strength. And though we cannot be together in our beautiful sanctuary for this gathering this evening, this global crisis has reminded us of a fundamental truth. For we well know that Shaare Emeth is so much more than just our physical building. No matter how far apart we may be from one another this night, we are still a Kehillah Kedosha, a holy community.
If you are a Tem, then we're Nitzavim. We stand here today and remember the dream. If you are a Tem, then we're Nitzavim. We stand here today and remember the dream. Kehillah, Kedosha, Kehillah, Kedosha, Kehillah, Kedosha, Kehillah, Kedosha, each one of us must play a part. Each one of us must seek the call. Each one of us must seek the truth. Each one of us is a part of it all. Each one of us must remember the pain. Each one of us must find the joy. Each one of us, each one of us. Kehillah, Kedosha, Kehillah, Kedosha, Kehillah, Kedosha, Kehillah, Kedosha.
Thank you, Lucy. I am Mike Lefton, and for the last 2 years, and for about the next 15 or 20 minutes, give or take, it has been my honor and privilege to serve as the president of Congregation Shaare Emeth. We are so much more than our physical building, as Rabbi Bennet said. However, I have chosen a background tonight to remind us of the building and the sacred space where we will once again meet, learn, and worship together, hopefully someday soon. I'd like to officially call the 152nd annual meeting of Congregation Shaare Emeth to order. Welcome and thank you for joining us, and I hope everyone is safe and well. The minutes of the 151st annual meeting are included in our latest annual report, which has been posted to our temple website. May I ask for a motion to accept the minutes? I see that Michelle Seiler has made the motion. Thank you, Michelle. And may I have a second? Thank you, Stan Shanker, for seconding the motion. Now for the audience participation part of the meeting. If you are attending tonight's meeting on a computer or a tablet or smartphone, you'll see a box pop up on your screen with the motion to accept the minutes. Please select either yes, no, or abstain at this time, and then hit the submit button. We'll give you a few seconds. Have some results. I see that the motion passes. Thank you very much. I know there are many past presidents attending tonight's meeting, and I'd like to thank each of you for your past and continued service to Shaare Emeth. Your passion and hard work has laid the foundation for much of our current success at Shaare Emeth. And I especially want to mention past President Charles Werner, who passed away since our last annual meeting. Charles served as president from 1993 to 1996. May his memory be a blessing. To say that we have an incredible staff at Shaare Emeth is an understatement, especially these past few months as our staff has been forced to improvise and innovate under extraordinary circumstances. If we were all physically together tonight, we would ask the staff in attendance to stand to be recognized, and we would give them a round of applause. Well, tonight I'm going to read the names of the staff attending virtually, and when I'm finished, I hope you will all give them a virtual standing ovation in your homes, because they truly deserve it. From our outstanding administrative staff, attending tonight is Marcy Diamond, Tammy Beard, Kara Ritchie, Stacy Jesperson, Valerie Cundy, Ben Zell, Jana McGinty, and Subi Benishensky. Our dedicated directors attending tonight are Rosalie Stein, Scott Berzon, Robert Colton, Debbie Bram, Tori Luking, Lucy Greenbaum, and Beth Codner. And our compassionate and equally wise clergy team, Rabbi Jim Bennett, Rabbi Andrea Goldstein, Rabbi Educator Lori Levine, Cantor Seth Warner, and Rabbi Emeritus Jeffrey Stiffman. Okay, now is the time for the standing ovation. Okay. I also want to recognize two brand new members of the Shaare Emeth team who are joining us tonight. First, our new early childhood education and Shirley Green preschool director, Brandy Cartwright. Brandy joined us on June 1st and brings with her great enthusiasm and very impressive credentials. Welcome, Brandy. Also joining us tonight is Rabbi Rachel Biermann. Rabbi Biermann will be joining our already amazing clergy team as an associate rabbi in just a couple of weeks. She comes to us from Temple B'nai Chaim in Georgetown, Connecticut, where she has served as the sole rabbi for the past 6 years. Rabbi Biermann will be focusing on our teens, young adults, and young couples. She is so excited to meet you, and we are so lucky to have her. Tomorrow, be on the lookout for a wonderful video we'll be sending out. It was produced, directed, and starring Rabbi Biermann. After watching it, I think you will see why we are so fortunate to have her joining our clergy team. Now I'd like to introduce Rabbi Lori Levine to spotlight some outstanding volunteers of Congregation Shaare Emeth. Rabbi Levine.
Good evening, everyone. We know that the Jewish people are known throughout the world as the people of the book. In fact, I'd argue that we are the people of many, many books. Learning and stories are central to our identity. The Torah allows us to explore our history and know where we have been, and it also invites us to imagine who we might become and where we might go together. Our heritage places a strong emphasis on lifelong learning and collective memory, and our volunteers that we are honoring tonight embody those teachings. Tonight at this annual meeting, it is my pleasure to publicly acknowledge the winners of this year's Volunteer Award, our volunteers on the Library Committee and the Archives Committee. Your time, energy, and sense of purpose have helped elevate the importance of books, learning, and history in our congregation. The Archives Committee are the keeper of our congregation's rich history. The volunteers who work to collect and organize the archives make sure that we can preserve the materials that tell our story and ensure that they will be passed on to the next generation. We are grateful for their service, their time, and their passion. The Rubin Library is an invaluable gift to our congregation and the St. Louis community. So much of the work that the committee does goes unseen, making it a warm and accessible center of knowledge for us. The shelving and checking in and out of books, ordering and organizing, striving to make sure our library is up to date and relevant. All of this is so important, and the books that they lovingly collect and share with us allow us to explore new ideas, meet new people, and deepen our knowledge of Judaism. Barb Feldacker, the former chair of the Library Committee, has prepared some words of thanks that I would like to read on her behalf and on the committee's behalf now. Thank you for honoring the Library Committee and shining the spotlight on the Rubin Library. We also want to thank Debbie Bram for being our #1 cheerleader and advocate at Shaare Emeth, and send a word of appreciation to Ronnie Brockman, chair of and our liaison to the Brodsky Library. As many of you know, the Brodsky Library is closed, not only for the duration of our pandemic quarantine, but because the Federation Building and the Holocaust Center are undergoing major renovations. This leaves our Rubin Library as the main Jewish library in the St. Louis area. Our committee does not take this position and responsibility lightly. We continue to maintain our current collection, expand it to include titles that are relevant to our times, and make it available to the local community. Under Jackie Lipsitz's leadership, the committee continues to meet, select new books, and make reading recommendations in Share Mail and the Bulletin. We also offered to house the Brodsky Library video collections, so it would still be accessible during their renovation. Please stop by the library when you are able to visit Shaare Emeth. We have self-checkout information available at the desk as you enter, and there are also nearby shelves labeled free to help yourself from and to borrow from. The tall round shelves hold all of our newest editions, including many from the 2019 Jewish Book Festival. A catalog is available on the Temple website, where you can check from home to see the availability of our many titles. The Library Committee looks forward to having you visit. Earlier today, our award winners were sent a small token of our appreciation in the form of flowers on behalf of the congregation to thank them for their hard work and dedication. And we would also like to acknowledge them now personally by name so we can thank them individually. From our Library Committee, Sandy Birnbaum, Barb Feldacker, Fran Lizzo, Jackie Lipsitz, Barb Rasnick, Leah Rubin, Kay Schlesinger, Lee Scissors, Nancy Taxman, and as their staff liaison, Debbie Bram. The Archives Committee, Brenda Barron and Johannes Schillinger. Mazel tov and congratulations to all of you. Yasher kol hakavod, all of our love and respect and appreciation tonight. As we continue to celebrate our congregation, I'd like to pass it along to Rabbi Goldstein for some remarks.
Thanks, Rabbi Levine. Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. Whether we are able to gather in person or we're connecting virtually, Shaare Emeth, our synagogue community, can be described in 4 overarching ways: We are a Beit Sefer, a house of study, a place where young and old gather to learn about our Jewish values and faith and tradition. This past year, we've seen expansions in our offerings through our religious school and preschool. And through this pandemic, we have even learned how to study Torah online. We are also a Beit Tefillah, a house of worship, a place where we gather to celebrate our sacred seasons, rejoice with those who are experiencing a simcha, and comfort those who have been devastated by loss. This past year, along with our weekly Shabbat services, we have experimented through Prayer Lab, welcomed the new year together, traveled to outer space during Purim, and most recently learned how to celebrate some of our B'nai Mitzvah students through Zoom. We are also a Beit Tzedek, a house of justice, a place where young and old gather to look at the world as it is and imagine and work for a world that we know it should be. This past year, we cared for the hungry and unhoused, fought for the rights of immigrants, planted a mitzvah garden, and used our collective power to honor the legacy of Dr. Howard Venable. And we are a Beit Knesset, a house of assembly, of gathering, a place where we come together to feel strengthened by the power of community. This past year, we showed up for one another in so many ways through Kesher and Moshe, SETYG, and Seniors on the Move, just to name a few. Most notably, during this COVID pandemic, we are so proud that more than 50 volunteers who, along with the help of Debbie Bram, made calls to every member in our congregation, checking to see how we're all doing. And some of those calls are still going on a weekly basis today. We have been, and we will continue to be, a Kehila Kadosha, a holy and sacred community, following the prophet Micah's instructions to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly through this world with our God and with one another. And we thought it might be lovely to take a walk back through the last year to revisit some of the amazing, fun, wonderful, beautiful things we've done together.
There is a power in this place and time. It shapes the rest of our lives. For when we return each year, we find a truth we can't deny. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. As we sing, we link ourselves to those who came before. And we're one with all those yet to come. Our strength, it will endure. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק.
Now I'm going to send it back to our president, Mike Lefton.
Thank you, Rabbi Goldstein. Those pictures give us a glimpse into the past year with so many great events. It's wonderful to be reminded of what our building looks like when it's bustling with people and activity. In the short time I have here this evening, it would be impossible for me to highlight all the fantastic programming happening at Shaare Emeth this past year. So I really do encourage you to read the annual report posted on the Shaare Emeth website. This annual report highlights three main reasons why Congregation Shaare Emeth is so special. First, an outstanding and compassionate clergy team sets the spiritual tone of our warm and inclusive congregation. Second, a talented, hardworking professional staff brings their passion to work each and every day, ensuring well-run, interesting, creative, and original programs for our members and the broader community. And finally, countless volunteers, young and old, give their time, talent, and treasures because they believe in the importance of fulfilling our mission of making Judaism relevant, meaningful, and joyful. It's been my honor and pleasure to work with and learn from all three of these groups during my presidency. As you read this annual report, I hope you'll share my feeling of gratitude for all those that make Congregation Shaare Emeth such an amazing community. My guess is that almost everyone attending this meeting tonight will see their name at least once in the annual report. And if you don't, how about setting a personal goal tonight to find something at Shaare Emeth that interests you and volunteer in the coming year? Currently, there are two major topics dominating our headlines: systemic racism and the coronavirus pandemic. I feel compelled to address both of those tonight as they relate to our congregation. With regard to racism, there will always be more that we can do, but I am proud to say that Shaare Emeth is not just talking about racism, but has a history of action. None more evident than the recent effort led by Shaare Emeth member Jim Singer and many other Shaare Emeth members to correct a wrong that occurred right here in our own backyard. The renaming of Bern Park to Howard Phillip Venable Memorial Park in honor of the African-American doctor whose land was taken by eminent domain to prevent him from building his home in Creve Coeur, and the educational memorial that the city will now erect so the history of the park is never forgotten, is a substantial and meaningful accomplishment. Individually and as a congregation, we must continue to do more to reverse years and years of racial injustice. This past year, a social justice survey was conducted by our Senate committee and completed by almost 250 Shaare Emeth members. Racial injustice was one of 5 topics that emerged as a focus area for our congregation. I'm confident that Shaare Emeth will continue to work tirelessly, making meaningful strides in the effort to eliminate systemic racism. COVID-19 has had a substantial impact on Shaare Emeth and the community we serve. The progression of the virus has forced the closure of our building and the cancellation of all in-person programming, including our Shirley Green preschool, religious school, camps, adult education, mindfulness classes, teen programming, and of course, worship services. I'm incredibly proud and impressed with how quickly our clergy and staff were able to create meaningful virtual programming and worship services. Even through crisis, Shaare Emeth continues to seamlessly serve our congregational community. We should be equally proud of our Mitzvah Garden volunteers who continue to provide much needed food to the Harvey Kornblum Food Pantry through the coronavirus pandemic, as demand in our community from our most vulnerable have reached record levels. When I spoke to you last year at the annual meeting, the Board of Trustees was grappling with a very difficult and serious issue of safety and security following the Tree of Life Synagogue and Poway Chabad shootings. Ironically, our Board of Trustees is again in the midst of safety and security discussions, this time as we try to protect our congregants and staff from the coronavirus, as we make plans to reemerge. By taking a conservative approach to reopening our building and resuming in-person worship and programs, we can best ensure everyone's safety. In the past, I've written and spoken about our deficit budget. While we had been making some positive progress in reducing our deficit, the impact of COVID-19 on the finances of Shaare Emeth will not be insignificant. The cancellation of revenue-generating programs such as preschool and camps will only be compounded by the added and unanticipated expenses needed to safely reopen while adhering to the best safety protocols and procedures. We will likely see our deficit grow by several $100,000. We understand that this is a difficult time for many in our community, but simply put, Shaare Emeth needs your help. Now more than ever, if we are to continue to fulfill our mission and serve our congregational community by offering the same quality programs and services, we need the assistance of every Shaare Emeth member. One thing every member can do is try to the best of your ability to uphold the membership responsibility commitment that you have already made. Secondly, in the coming days, you'll see the rollout of our Planting the Seeds COVID-19 Fund. I urge you to give as generously as you can. No gift is too small, and certainly none too large. I'm proud to announce that Moshe, the men of Shaare Emeth, have graciously kicked off this campaign with a $1,500 donation. Thank you, Moshe, for that very generous gift. I'd like to close by taking a few minutes to reflect on these past 2 years as president. A little over 2 years ago, as I was about to assume the role of Shaare Emeth president, I sat in the rabbinic conference room at Shaare Emeth, surrounded by several past presidents of the congregation, while they graciously imparted words of wisdom and advice. One of them said, "If you're not enjoying your time as president, you're doing something wrong." Well, I guess that means for the most part, I've been doing it right, because I have thoroughly enjoyed my 2-year term as president of this incredible congregation. One of the things I've enjoyed most is meeting so many of you and hearing your stories about why you are passionate about Shaare Emeth. I won't say it never happened, but it was rare that someone would contact me with a complaint. I knew when I accepted the nomination for president that it would push me out of my comfort zone. I know that I didn't always handle things perfectly and may have offended a few people along the way, and for that, I apologize. But I've learned a great deal and wouldn't trade this experience for anything. I spent a lot of time over the last 2 years talking to you about changing the way we think about membership responsibility. I asked you to not think of MR as dues you pay for yourself or your family to simply belong, but to think of it as philanthropy. Finding what makes you passionate about Shaare Emeth, and then giving what you can to ensure that our entire congregational community, now and for future generations, will be able to share in a vibrant, warm, and inclusive place to learn and worship. I hope the culture of philanthropy continues. I did my best over the past 2 years to create raving fans of Shaare Emeth. I hoped our members would become raving fans. I wanted our staff raving about working at Shaare Emeth and our community raving about having Shaare Emeth in it. A highlight for me happened one day as I was leaving Temple on a very sunny day. A car pulled up next to me, but because of the sun, I couldn't see who was in it. They rolled down the window and yelled, "I'm a raving fan of Shaare Emeth," and then they sped off. Well, I loved it, and I hope that spirit continues. There are so many people I want to thank. First and foremost, my wife, Debbie, my daughter, Sydney, and my son, Jacob, who have always supported me and were accepting of the many hours spent in evening meetings at Temple. I want to thank the incredible staff at Shaare Emeth, who have been so responsive and a delight to work with. Thanks to every board member that I've ever served with, past and present, for your commitment, dedication, and wisdom. Thank you to all the volunteers, many who I never met or got to thank personally, but who are the heart of this congregation. Thank you to my first vice president, Josh Wallach, for his energy, passion, and always being there as my sounding board. You're going to do great things, Josh. Thank you to our incredible clergy for their spiritual guidance and inspiration. I especially want to thank Rabbi Bennet and Rabbi Goldstein. I will truly miss our weekly meetings. I'm grateful for your thoughtful leadership and for your friendship. Finally, it's impossible to adequately express my appreciation and admiration for our executive director, Rosalie Stein, who always kept me pointed in the right direction. She is a true gem, and we are so lucky to have her. As president, my goal was to hand the congregation over to the next president in just a little bit better shape than it was handed to me. Well, notwithstanding a global pandemic and with the help of many, many people, I think we achieved that goal. I'm excited to see where the next president, Josh Wallach, takes us. I can assure you that we are in extremely capable hands, as Josh is the biggest raving fan of Shaare Emeth that I know. I only hope Josh enjoys his time as president as much as I have, because as a wise past president once told me, if you're not enjoying it, you're doing it wrong. So best of luck to you, Josh, and thank you all for allowing me to serve as your president. Now, I'd like to introduce immediate past president, at least for the next couple of minutes, and nominating committee chair Renee Silverstein to present the new slate of Congregation Shaare Emeth officers and trustees.
Hi, everyone. As past president of Congregation Shaare Emeth, I have the honor of chairing the nominating committee. The nominating committee is made up of 3 members of the Board of Trustees, 4 members of the congregation, the chair of the Leadership Development Committee, the Membership Committee, and the Senior Rabbi and Executive Director as ex officio members. At this time, I'd like to thank all those who served on this committee. You offered tremendous input and insights. I'd now like to share a motion from the nominating committee. We move that the persons comprising the slate of officers and trustees submitted by the nominating committee for election at this annual meeting as set forth in the notice of annual meeting provided to the membership of Congregation Shaare Emeth be and are hereby elected as officers and trustees of Congregation Shaare Emeth, as designated for the term set forth in the notice, which term shall commence effective June 9th, 2020. The officers are President Josh Wallach, First Vice President Bill Remus, Secretary Rachel Peerless, Treasurer Mark Gubernick, Assistant Treasurer Bob Sparks, Vice President Randy Brodsky, Vice President Richard Cohen, Vice President Dana de Blasi, Vice President Aaron Schreiber, Vice President Michael Scherberg, and immediate past president Mike Lefton. Board of Trustees nominated for a 2-year term are Jeffrey Bland, Jean Jacobson, Ed Mewson, Sue Pikus, Dave Proper, Jill Solomon, Andy Speller, Gabby Tolman, and Kathy Weissman. Renominated for a 2-year term for 2022 are Dr. David Gorin, Doug Kolker, and Julia Mendelo. Do I have a second for this motion? Oh, I see Charles Eisenkramer wants to second the motion. Thank you, Charles. And now, Mike will explain the nominating process, the voting process to you.
Okay, thank you, Renee. Well, the motion has been made and seconded. I now call for the vote. Once again, you will see a voting box pop up on your screen. Please cast your vote at this time, and we'll have the results in just a minute. results screen. Yes, we do. As expected, the motion passes with flying colors. Congratulations to President Josh Wallach and all the new officers and trustees. And now I'd like to introduce Rabbi Bennet to say a few words.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you also to all of our leaders, our volunteers, the wonderful members of our congregation who make our congregation possible. I'd like to just take a moment to formally thank our outgoing officers and trustees, Julia Lazarus, Mark Rubin, Jen Saget, Earl Scissors, Aaron Wall, Dan Weinstein, Renee Silverstein, and of course, Mike Lefton, about whom I'll return and share some thoughts in just a moment. My mind has often wandered during these virtual days and nights, like yours I'm sure has as well. And I've become very attuned to light. The lighting on our Zoom screens, which illumines us, what light, what kind of light, what color of light, the position of the light, and more impacts so much in how we are seen. And the light outside that announces to us that it is day, or that disappears as evening arrives. This week's Torah portion, Ba'alotecha, begins with a reference to light as well. It begins with a detailed description of the creation of the seven-branched menorah, the menorah that the Israelites were told to place in the Mishkan, the tabernacle that they carried with them through the wilderness. God tells Moses and Aaron to make a lampstand of pure gold, its base and its shaft, its cups, its calyxes, and its petals, all hammered from one piece. Sadly, this ancient menorah that was created in the wilderness is long gone, lost to history long ago. And the Talmud teaches that no replica of the temple menorah can actually be made or displayed. Instead, in their place, we have amazing and beautiful lights and other objects in our places of worship and in our homes and in our lives, lights that shed light and illuminate our way. And light, of course, we know continues to be a powerful and important part of our Jewish lives. We light candles for Yortzeit in memory. We light Shabbat candles to celebrate the sanctity of the Sabbath, Hanukkah candles and festival candles, lights in our sanctuaries like the Ner Tamid that reminds us of God's eternal presence in our lives. And in the Talmud, we read a fascinating discussion about the lighting of these lights for Shabbat and holidays and other holy times. The Talmud teaches that a candle for one is a candle for many. Later commentaries use this very passage to explain that performing a mitzvah, which one might think would diminish your energy and resources, in fact, is like lighting many candles from a single flame. Like the Hanukkah menorah that we light with a single shamas, lighting another light with our flame does not diminish, though we use it to light many other flames. And doing holy acts, mitzvot, and deeds of ethical and moral goodness also does not diminish us, though we may give of our own blessings to help others, especially at times like those in which we are living right now, when we face such dire and serious needs in our world. We know that we need to be light, each of us, light to ourselves, light to others, and light to the world. And similarly, the rabbis teach us a leader who leads by giving or doing for others is also not diminished, but rather is strengthened as a result. Tonight, in a sense, we're gathered to honor the light that is strengthened by those who have voluntarily chosen to give of their light to lead this holy congregation. Each of our outgoing officers and our board members, each of our newly elected officers and trustees has made just such a choice, and they have each done so nobly. And we are truly grateful to all of you and to all of them for the light that they share and continue to share every day. And in this spirit, I want to take a personal moment especially to shine light upon Mike Lefton, who has exemplified the truth of this metaphor of the menorah and light. Mike, through your kind and gentle presence, through your calm demeanor, through your wise ability to listen to others, and only to speak when you have something important to say. You have guided our congregation through wonderful times over these past 2 years. And you have also guided us through difficult challenges, such as the unprecedented experiences we face now. And I think there's a reason that the menorah has more than one light, for each one of those lights shines in its own uniqueness. And just as the temple menorah can never simply be replaced, so too no human being can truly be replaced. Mike, you have made a lasting impact on each of us and on our congregation and community. And we know that you are not really leaving, for you are merely changing roles as you now become immediate past president. Personally, I'm grateful not only for your presence as our president, or your presence each Shabbat at worship, or your uncanny ability and commitment to show up at classes and programs and meetings and more, not because you have to, but because you truly want to, and because you understand that showing up is what it means to be a leader. And most personally, I am grateful for your friendship and your kindness. You are the kind of temple president that truly makes it a joy to be a rabbi, to be a member of a congregational staff, to be a member of a congregation, and to be a friend. And I truly cherish that friendship, as I know we all do. So Mike, enjoy your new role. Sit back and smile and relax a bit, and then buckle up, because we know that you, just like so many of our previous temple presidents and leaders, have really just begun. So thank you for all you've done. And on behalf of our congregation, I'd now like to invite your wife, Debbie, to bring to you a gift from our congregational community to thank you for what you have done for us. Mike.
Heavy and very beautiful. Thank you so much. It's gorgeous.
Mike, welcome. This is a piece of glass art created by Ian Galula, who has created so many of the other beautiful symbols of light in our sanctuary and in our building. And we hope that it will bring light and beauty into your home as well. It's inscribed on the bottom, saying thank you to you, Mike, for your 2 years of president and service to your congregation. Mazel tov.
Thank you so much.
As I've said, we all need to be light at times like this. When the world feels dark and foreboding, as it does these days, that is when we are in most need of light. And that is why it's truly an honor and privilege for me to introduce Josh Wallach, our next president, who will lead us into the future.
Rabbi, thank you for your introduction. It's hard to believe that you and I stood together on our bima way back when in 1988, you as a young rabbi and me as a bar mitzvah. I've known you for some 35 plus years, and it's an honor to be in this position serving Shaare Emeth, working alongside you, our entire amazing clergy, and incredible staff. Before I share some remarks this evening, it's imperative first and foremost that I thank all of our members who are frontline workers fighting COVID-19. From all of us, a sincere thank you for serving our community. My Shaare Emeth story begins very early in life. Thanks are due to many for the early childhood education I received in the 1970s under the watchful eye of Director Audrey Montague, to the incredible religious school teachers who taught me the beauty of our religion and the Hebrew language, to the patience that Rabbis Stiffman and Bennet showed all of us as confirmation students. All of you had a key role in helping to develop my love for Judaism. It was a true team effort. Like many others, my synagogue affiliation was limited in my college years, attending services on the high holidays, loving being back in my synagogue, hearing familiar melodies by our beloved Cantor Fogel, knowing exactly who would be sitting where as I would glance around. Thankfully, during those years where Shaare Emeth was not at the forefront of my mind, current Camp Sabra director Terry Grossman, who was also my former assistant director, was there to bridge the gap as I worked at Sabra. Terry, thank you for the work you and your team provide, especially CEO and President of the St. Louis JCC, Lynn Whittles, and Federation Vice President of Community Impact, Mindy Fredman. You are all invaluable to our community and beyond, and I look forward to our continued work together always. Fast forwarding a few years, as a young father, a familiar voice called. It was Rabbi Bennet asking if I'd like to serve our congregation by sitting on the newly formed Strategic Planning Committee. How could I tell my rabbi no? After this productive year-long process that resulted in our working document, now known as Project Atid, I accepted a nomination to our Board of Trustees and eventually a seat on our operating committee. In 2015, Share the Vision was born, where I had the honor of co-chairing with my mentor, past President Joe Peerless. We, along with so many staff and lay leaders, worked together for several years to raise funds to renovate our building and, more importantly, grow our endowments so that our congregation would be able to further strengthen its position for future generations. I then served as a vice president for 2 years and as first vice president for 2 more, working under the leadership of now immediate past president Mike Lefton, finalizing for me the path of getting to where we are today. Having served on boards led by past presidents Joe Peerless, current Federation Board Chair Greg Yowitz, Renee Silverstein, and Mike has been a true honor. To all of you, I owe a debt of gratitude for the examples you have set, continue to set, and your willingness to teach selflessly. I can only thank you by continuing to work tirelessly to assure that Shaare Emeth, my home away from home, ascends to even higher heights while on my watch. Teamwork. According to the New Oxford American Dictionary, teamwork is defined as the combined action of a group of people, especially when effective and efficient. I truly believe that teamwork is the most essential key to success. Over our history, we as Jews have proven time and again that working together allows us to accomplish more than taking on the world alone. This sentiment has never been truer than now. Critical is the need to surround ourselves with the right people, with experts from a multitude of fields, empowering each of them to grow to their fullest potential as lay leaders. We are blessed at Shaare Emeth to have a wealth of talented members who make up our community. Artists, doctors, teachers, architects, professors, gardeners, developers, volunteers, social workers. What connects all of these diverse individuals is their shared desire to fulfill our mission, to be a compassionate and inclusive community that makes Judaism relevant, meaningful, and joyful. And all of this while respecting others at all times, coming together for the common good, no matter what happens outside of our walls. Simply stated, selfless teamwork. We as an organization at Shaare Emeth have a long-standing history of working together as a team, clergy, staff, and lay leaders alike. This is evident in everything we do, from social justice initiatives to the multitude of task forces that are put together when the need arises, to ongoing committee work that is required for an organization of our size. We rely on all of us to make things work. No one single person can do all of this alone, not even Executive Director Rosalie Stein or Director of Operations Robert Colton, although they come pretty close to achieving this. In 2018, Mike introduced his vision for a culture of philanthropy at the beginning of his presidency. I look forward to nurturing this vision, implementing an even more robust approach to teamwork, calling on my fellow board members, staff, and clergy to assure we are all carrying the extra weight that is part of our new normal. We will not make rash decisions. We will continue to be diligent in our critical thinking processes. We'll use our time wisely, we'll spend wisely, and we will get through what is undoubtedly a very difficult time together through teamwork. While my primary goals have not changed, the list certainly has grown of what I intend to accomplish with the help of our board and staff and clergy during this unique time. Mike's vision of philanthropy always will remain at the forefront as we expand on its successes. First, we will continue to explore and potentially reshape how we define membership and what it means to be a member. In doing so, we will learn to tell our story to one another and how to help our fellow congregants share their stories. This in turn will help us cultivate deeper, meaningful relationships amongst one another. Second, I will be steadfast and focused on bringing mental health initiatives to the forefront so that those who need access can find the appropriate resources through the help of our own members, several of whom happen to be mental health professionals. A mental health crisis is upon us, and we must care for each other so that we can all nurture healthy selves, now more than ever. Third, newly elected First Vice President Bill Remus has accepted the responsibility of chairing a bylaws task force that will take a deep dive into our bylaws and assure their relevance to our congregational mission for the year 5780 and beyond. Fourth, I've long believed we err in not keeping our past presidents engaged, our most valuable assets who have spent years giving of their time, building relationships, and showing their love for our community. To correct this, I've asked past President Joe Peerless and past President Renee Silverstein to work with me and several others, including Rabbi Bennet and Rosalie Stein, in developing a culture where bequests and planned giving are the norm. We can and must grow to a culture where these are not taboo topics, but rather can be seen as further sustainability for Congregation Shaare Emeth for our next 152 years and beyond. My goal is to have past presidents' voices continue to be a meaningful and active part of our conversation, part of the legacy to what we have become as a congregation, and I look forward to working with all of you. We simply wouldn't be here without any of you. And lastly, but only lastly for now, we will continue to scenario plan and will execute plans that support our mission, adapting as times and conditions deem necessary, always making an effort to remain proactive. When appropriate, we need to be willing to try new programs and new directions with a positive outlook, absent of fear and full of logic, especially now. Shaare Emeth will stand strong to serve its membership. A very special thank you to my wife, Stacy, who works tirelessly as a veterinarian and mom, making sure I do not miss my countless meetings, adjusting her schedule without a second thought so I can be present for Shaare Emeth. Thank you to my children, Gabriel, Vivian, and Benjamin, who continue to teach me and provide unconditional love. And thank you to my mom and dad who support me. All of you have helped shape me into the person I am today. And for that teamwork, I am truly grateful. In closing, I've long been taught that there is no such thing as a dumb question. I often encourage those I work with in lay leadership to speak up and never be afraid to ask. In order to grow, you must be able to ask that question. About 7 years ago, this concept was reaffirmed for me, just how important asking questions was, when Shaare Emeth brought a guest speaker I'd never heard of to one of our board meetings. Apparently, we were going to learn about building meaningful relationships over one single weekend from a complete stranger to most of us. Cultivating those relationships, we were told, was central to succeeding as a congregation. I can truly say that weekend was transformative to my lay leadership. That guest speaker in particular exemplifies the ability to successfully cultivate relationships, and I am honored that our paths crossed. His willingness and eagerness to teach others and listen, to be a mentor, and to be a mensch among mensches is a calling that he has responded to like no other. Just about a week and a half ago, I sent a last-minute email message asking for his virtual presence on this call for nothing more than moral support, as someone who has dramatically affected my ability to succeed as a lay leader. I received an almost immediate reply back saying, of course. To that end, I will bring my remarks to a close and turn the camera over to the director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, also serving as senior vice president of the URJ, my friend, Rabbi Jonah Pesner.
Oh, Josh Wallach, thank you so much. And Mazel Tov to you. Mazel Tov to Shaare Emeth. I love you. I literally love you. So many people who've logged into this call. I see you've got 138 Zooms, which means hundreds of people because there's a whole watch parties going on and families sheltering together. For those of you that know me, because I've been to Shaare Emeth over and over again, it's always such a joy to be with you. I've been on your bima to speak. I've been in your boardroom to teach. I've been in your social hall to listen. I've learned from you. I've laughed with you. I was with you in the weeks after Michael Brown's murder in Ferguson and the unrest, and now I'm with you in the wake of George Floyd's murder as well. So I feel honored. And Josh, I wouldn't have skipped a beat when you reached out because I love you. I love the congregation. And I want to really emphasize and put a fine point under what you just taught us. It's all about the relationships. And when COVID-19 broke out as a pandemic, and all of a sudden we had to advise congregations to shut down and get on Zoom and go online, I said to some colleagues, this is going to be the test of our communities and which ones are really relational communities. Because anybody can go on Zoom and get a high holiday experience. Anybody can go on Zoom and, kind of buy a Jewish thing to download. But your people will Zoom with you if they feel connected to you. And the 138 Zoom accounts that are logging in tonight, represent the families and the members and the people who love you and whom you love. So Josh, it's my hope that this pandemic will accelerate your commitment to building a relational community where people know one another and feel engaged with one another. And thank God the work you've been doing around reimagining philanthropy and membership has been going on for some time, because now is the true test of it. Now is when it's all being tested. Because if people are just trying to buy a product or a service, they'll get it somewhere else. But they're going to be with you because they love you and they love one another. And you'll find creative and dynamic ways to do it online, on Zoom and virtual spaces. And then the pandemic will pass and we'll be in person again, and you'll be stronger for it. So Josh, mazel tov to you on becoming the president of this congregation who knows what it's really about. When you talked about being a community of joy and purpose and meaning, it isn't about programs. It isn't about lectures. It isn't about bringing in some blowhard from Washington to speak to you. It's about the lives that you live together, the joys that you share, the comfort you bring one another during your sorrows and your tragedies, even during these dark times of pandemic and systemic racism. Mike Lefton, thanks to you and mazel tov to you on your 2 years of leadership. Thank you for naming systemic racism. It would be impossible in this moment in time not to acknowledge that. And by the way, I don't just love the congregation, hearing the kind of hall of fame of your past presidents, Greg, Renee, and of course, Joe Peerless, who's been a friend and a colleague since my time visiting you. You've got a great deep bench. And of course, your clergy, who I adore and who I love. Particularly want to lift up Jim and Andrea, who I came to know deeply in the wake of Ferguson, who sat and cried with me and thought with me and challenged one another to figure out how to lean into being a justice congregation. And the park that has been renamed, I think it's Venable, Dr. Venable, is that the name? Thank you. Don't underestimate the power of the symbol. I remember when we talked about that strategy a couple of years ago. This was going to be the big initiative, the big racial justice initiative. And there were people who said, well, it's a good thing to do, it's important, but it isn't systemic change, it's a symbol. Well, look at what's happening right now. Symbols all across our country as statues are being toppled, and people, Black folks in particular, are saying, will you say out loud, Black Lives Matter? Will you make the symbolic gesture of protest so we know you love us and see us? So the Venable strategy, that campaign and the education that'll go around it is critical and important, and it's a step. And the work that Andrea in particular and Jim as well have led with building the relationships across lines of difference into the Black community, historically before Ferguson, after Ferguson, will become ever more important now more than ever. So lovingly, I'll share just 3 reflections with you before I move to a close. The video that you shared earlier of your congregation was beautiful. It was full of laughter and rejoicing and joy, and it was very white. That's just what it is right now. Between 10 and 15% of American Jews describe themselves as not white. They describe themselves as of color. That's 1 million people who consider themselves Black Jews, brown Jews, Asian Jews, Latino Jews, Jews of some kind of hue. We want to see them in ourselves, in our live streams, in our videos, in our Facebooks, speaking on our pulpits, teaching our classes. And it takes work. It's work that Shaare Emeth can do, because when Shaare Emeth decides to lean into transformation and change, you do it. And so asking the question, how can we be more diverse and more colorful and more inclusive, is a question you can answer. And now more than ever, people of color, not just Jewish people of color, but across all kinds of lines, are asking, will you show up for us again as you did 5 years ago after Ferguson? Will you help us change policing, change policies? Will you help us change hearts and minds? The time is now to double down. If what Josh taught was correct, that it's all about the relationships, then to be a Jew is not just to be about the relationships within our Jewish community. It's to be in with relationships of all God's children, in all neighborhoods, in all sectors, of all hues and all colors. Because I saw at the beginning of this annual meeting that great text, which is amplified on the poster behind me. Is this not what God wants of you? To do justice, to love mercy, and march proudly, Shaare Emeth. You have so much to be proud of. I love you. I celebrate with you. Mazel tov. And I believe now it is on the cantor to sing us out.
Thank you, Rabbi Pesner, and Mazel Tov, Josh, and thank you. It's a pleasure for us to be your partners. To the incoming Board of Trustees. For each of you, your installation as a member of this board is a sacred one. In English, we usually use the word covenant. In Hebrew, we use the word brit. The sacred relationship is a symbiotic one. Our congregation can only maintain and grow as its members do, and you represent them. Our congregation depends on your wisdom, your insight, and unique viewpoint in order to see what lies ahead. For each of you brings your own experience to Shaare Emeth, just as you bring your own personal and professional experiences too. It is my wish and my prayer for each new and returning member of the Board of Trustees and each member of the Operating Committee that you feel empowered and supported in your roles by those you love and those you are serving, and that you are appropriately and meaningfully challenged in your position to care for and represent our congregation Shaare Emeth with emunah, trust, kavod, honor, and gevurah, strength. May your successes be many. May your patience remain high. May your sensitivity and openness ever increase. And it is in this spirit that on behalf of my colleagues, I offer this blessing to you on your installation as officers of Shaare Emeth. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And may that countenance of God that shines onto you shine through you and deliver to you and to us wholeness and peace. And together we say, Amen.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. And before I formally adjourn the meeting, we will turn it over to Lucy for a closing song. And actually, we will formally adjourn, and then I will turn it over to Lucy. So Lucy, take it away.
Each one of us must start to hear. Each one of us must sing the song. Each one of us must do the work. Each one of us must right the wrong. Each one of us must build the home. Each one of us must hold